Hello there, what is going on everyone? Today we are going to be ranking the Separatist ships of Star Wars Armada. This is the fourth and final installment of a ship rankings series that I started working on a while back and did the first three in a fairly close timeline, and then life got busy and I got into other things and realized I never came back and finished the series. So that's what we're going to do today. Just a reminder, we are still doing the $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos to enter to win that. Let me know your favorite Separatist ship down in the comments section below. Now, this ranking series is a tough one for me because the Separatists have very few ships. Much like the Republic Clone Wars ranking for Star Wars Armada, the Separatist ranking is not really fair because they have so few that every ship is crucial. And so this is even more so than the rest. This is a faction that is difficult to put anything in last place because last place is really the fifth best. And in this case, their ships are so good that I found them to be all excellent, and it's really tough. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, like they're all a 7 or above. In my view. And so even our lowest place ranking here is quite crucial. If you had to tell me to pick one ship and get rid of it from the Separatists, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't play that game because you can't really do it. They need everything they have. They're such a small faction. And so this was a difficult ranking to do, but I figured it just because it was difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. So without further ado, here is the top 5 ships ranked from worst to best. I hate using the word worst, but that's how we've done all the rest of them. So let's go. All right, starting with number 5. Again, 5th best rather than worst. It's the Providence. Now, this is their big carrier. This is the iconic flagship of a lot of Separatist fleets. This is a cornerstone. This is where you get your fleet support. This is not a bad ship by any stretch of the imagination. There are only a handful of reasons why I put it at the bottom of the rankings, but I want to talk about its strengths first. This is a very strong ship. It has great titles. It can take multiple defensive retrofits depending on how you equip it. If you want to run, the carrier version, for example, with the invincible title and things like that, you can make it a really good flagship. It has other titles that allow it to salvo really well. It's a good salvo ship. It's a ship that can get in close, can survive long enough to get in close, and once it is in close, it can wreck your day. So it can be a close-range brawler. It can be a flagship that's tough with 9 hull, 5 shields in the front, 3 on the sides. It's got a decent amount of shields. It's also great at pushing squads with the 4 squadron. It's good engineering. It has typical values for a lot of things, and it's point costed moderately well. So why is this at the bottom of the list? What are the things that aren't great about? Oh, and it has the carrier version has fleet command as well, which is a great upgrade slot. It's a great place to get fleet command. Again, overall, really good ship. Why is this at the bottom of the list? Well, on one hand, I personally, again, this is my own ranking list, so I'm allowed to put some of my own biases in here because what's the point of ranking things if you don't have your own any bias at all? Since I tend not to play squadron heavy very much, this is one that easily kind of sits out of some of my lists because I don't really need this guy for his squadron pushing capability, although it is good squadron pushing capability. It's not one that I really need in most of my lists. Also, I feel like while Separatists did get a little bit of help in that last patch, for the longest time, they really didn't have a big edge when it came to squadrons. And now that's starting to change a little bit, but still, I feel like there's other ships that can also be carriers, and this one doesn't. It's better, but it's not so much better that it has to be the only choice. There's other ships that can also serve as carriers. So it's not as crucial for that. Granted, it does have the fleet command, which is important. But I also said earlier, if you had to get rid of one of these ships, which one would it be? And of course, I wouldn't. But if we were to get more waves of the Clone Wars, I always felt like if we ever got a Lucrehulk, this is the ship that it would have competed with for that carrier. And I'm like, well, what's the point of having a Lucrehulk if we already have a Providence? And so in the event that we were going to get a Lucrehulk and I had to get rid of a ship, it would be this guy, because then the Lucrehulk would probably be tough. It would probably have a high hull amount. It would probably serve as a flagship and would probably also serve as a carrier. It's one of the reasons why if you're ever going to run a Lucrehulk, you can proxy it over a Providence, because I feel like it's pulling a lot of the same weight as what a Lucrehulk might do mechanically in game. There obviously would be some differences, but I feel like there's a lot of overlap between this and what would have possibly come in the future. And so if I had to get rid of one in the future, this one would probably be on the chopping block eventually. But since we never did get any official extra waves once the game left Fantasy Flight, although a Lucrehulk was in development, or so we've been told, this one would have kind of been on the chopping room floor eventually at some point. Although currently it's a phenomenally good flagship carrier and also fleet command support ship and close range brawler. It does an awful lot of things, but it doesn't really, it also doesn't like completely blow me out of the water in any one category. It's just very well rounded and it's great, and so I like it for that. So again, not a bad ship, just happens to be in 5th place. And out of these two, I would put the Providence class carrier above the Dreadnought, primarily because of the fleet command. That's kind of, and the better flak. And that's kind of the main reason there. Moving up to number 4. It is the Munificent. Now, the Munificent is one of the best medium ships in the entire game. Absolutely love the Munificent. It is a little slow, but it does so many things very, very well. It's a great double archer. It's a great long-range red dice pushing ship, which is one of my favorite things in the game. It is also sort of a jack of all trades in that it can do a lot of things well. It has the brace, and it has a salvo. It has the redirect. It's got decent shields too, with 4 in the front, 3 in the sides. It kind of sends off some assault frigate vibes. It can function as a flagship. It did function as a flagship for the first 6 months to a year or so of Armada Clone Wars. Because again, this was the first flagship the Separatists had. It also functions as a carrier. It also has some important upgrade slots. It doesn't have all of the best upgrade slots, but it does well. I put the comms frigate above the star frigate because it's a little bit cheaper. You're getting a lot of red dice here for a fairly reasonable point cost. And the red flak is also exceptionally cool. Now, the red flak, while it's good, is also a little bit limited because you don't have weapons team, so that limits some of the really cool things that you can do with a red flak. But still, it is the lack of weapons team. This guy could have been in first place maybe if he had had weapons team. But again, he doesn't really need it because the way his lines are drawn well enough that getting a double arc with the Munificent is not that hard. And so it's really, you kind of fly mostly, pointed towards the enemy fleet, and you're going to find, front arc and side arc are not that hard to get. And so you can really throw a lot of stuff, and he fits well and he works well and mechanically very well with a lot of the commanders. Half of the Separatist commanders are offensive ship-to-ship commanders, and so being able to throw as many dice as possible against enemy ships is a very good thing when half of your force's commanders want that specifically. So that's another really good thing about the Munificent. I really like it. I like red dice too. I'm a little bit partial to red dice, so that's one of the really fun things about this ship. Definitely like it. Moving up to number 3, it's the Gazanti class cruiser, the Sea Rock Gazanti for the Separatists that came out in Rapid Reinforcements 1. This is a one-off. There's only one of these guys, but he's sort of the first combat flotilla that we've seen. I say sort of the first because yes, the Empire has 2 versions of the Gazanti, one with red dice in the front, and so yeah, they can potentially do some things with that, and it is sometimes used in that capacity. But this is the reason I say that this one is more of a combat flotilla because it can take an ion cannon slot, and and of course, and a weapons team as well. So it allows it some really interesting things that it can do. Plus, it is also a cheap option for the Separatists. You have a scatter ship that you can throw in for the Separatists, and the Separatists want ships that can attack. Commanders like TF want as many ships throwing dice on enemy ships as possible, and tossing a couple of Gazantes in a fleet of Separatist ships gives you more attacks and more chances to take advantage of dice adding mechanics and all of this stuff that the Separatists like to do. Separatists have a lot of strength when it comes to ship firepower, and having a cheap, survivable, or I should say scatterable ship like the Gazanti helps fill out those fleets, especially in a faction that has a lot of big ships and that really needed more small ships to be able to have some point, have a kind of a point deficit with their you want to have a cheaper ships so you can get more ships on the board and thus have, maybe some disposable ships, but also have more, ship to ship dice, more attacks happening, more activations, all of that stuff. It fills a pretty important spot in Separatist fleets. And I love it for that purpose. Even though we do only have one ship card version of it, it's still a really groovy ship. And I mean, Ion Cannon 2 opens up so many interesting possibilities for this ship. So it's a real fun one, even though you have to get into medium range. With the scatter, you should be able to survive well enough there. And even if you do lose the ship, maybe you're only losing 24 points, plus maybe a little bit of upgrades, maybe no upgrades. You can run this one naked, and it still fits into a lot of Separatist fleets. So again, it techs really well with the faction as a whole, and that's a cool thing. Moving up to number 2, it's the Hard Sell, possibly the best small ship in the game from my perspective. I love red dice. This guy throws lots of red dice. He is also cheap, and he is so much more survivable than he would seem at first. How many of you have faced a Hard Sell for the first time and said, oh, I'll be able to kill this guy? A small ship? No problem. He's going to die right away. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, no, I got lots of shields. Oh, you have a weak point. Yeah, but I've got redirect, and I've got brace, and I've got evade. And, oh, evades are better now than they used to be. Oh, and I've got 5 hull. And it's so hard to kill a Hard Sell. It's hard to kill a Hard Sell. They're for their points, they're so incredibly survivable. They have the exact best combination of defense tokens that you would want them to have. They have shields in great spots. 3 shields in the front is just insane. Combined with brace, redirect, and evade, it takes quite a few hits to kill one of these things, way more than any other small ship. And except maybe kind of on par with a gladiator as far as survivability, except it doesn't have to get into close range like gladiators have to do. It can stay at long range and still be fully combat effective, and even better, as a matter of fact, at long range because of the evade. So here's a ship that thrives in its safest zone, and it's just incredible. On top of that, it has great tech and synergizes very, very well with the faction as far as being able to put like rocket troopers on here to give raid tokens to your opponent if you're running CF, or extra red dice, extra long range attacks for no matter which type of a commander you're using. Again, I like to use one of the 3 ship-to-ship commanders. Typically, more attacks is better, and I love it for that purpose. Plus, on the battle refit, which was the one I put over on top, you do also have a turbo laser upgrade on there as well, which is a magnificent thing. I like to put spinal armament on this one, so this way if somebody does get behind me, I still have battery armament in the rear and can make the rear shot, allowing me to trigger my B2 rocket droids and things like that. So there's like a lot of really fun stuff to do. But the transport also provides a critical support function at only 47 points. You're also getting your fleet support option there, while also having a shooty ship that can still throw just about as many dice as the battle refit. So as long as you don't, we weren't planning on putting like spinal armament or some kind of turbo laser slot on there, the Hard Sell class transport is also an incredibly effective ship, and it has all of the survivability of the battle refit with additional support options for your fleet. They're both great ships. I happen to like the battle refit better, but I think the transport fits more of a crucial place in the Separatist fleet. So I'm ranking the battle refit better for me personally, and it's my list, so that one goes on top. Although I think the transport is probably better and more popular for the community at large. But both are great ships, and you get 2 of them in the starter too, which was always cool. So, people typically have at least 2 of them, so that you can easily fit a couple of these in a fleet and get, raise that activation count. Great ship. And number 1 is the Recusent. Look, it's because of Patriot Fist. I mean, that's basically it. It's a cool ship, though. It's one of the coolest looking ships in the game. It's a weird ship too, in that it's a large ship, but it's not super tanky. I mean, it's tanky enough. Like, it can be a flagship. It definitely can. But the thing is, it doesn't have that many shields. 3-3-3-2 is okay, but not super great. You do have a brace and a redirect, and that's also, again, okay. But again, it's not as tanky as other large ships in the game. It's one of the least tanky ships that is still considered. And I think the other thing is it has no defensive retrofit, so you're not using this as a flagship most of the time. So I have this as my number 1, and by now you're like, okay, you're just talking bad things about the ship. Well, let me get into the good things. It's first off, it's got a really weird, like basically almost like a T-shaped front arc, so you can do really weird stuff if you want to put gunnery team on this ship. You can almost always have. It's got the widest front arc in the whole game, which is it's just a really weird profile. It's super fun ship, great front arc on this one. It's got it's pretty maneuverable. And it's also got a great side arc. So again, you don't have to go gunnery team if you don't want to. It's definitely not necessary. It's just weird and it's cool, but really it's because of Patriot Fist. And when Patriot Fist is concerned, I think the light destroyer wins. For me, it's cheaper on one hand. It's got more long range dice, and if I'm trying to get my long range hits, and if I want to get that alpha strike in on somebody and roll 10 dice at somebody at long range, the first round of shooting, and and a lot of times one shot, start taking ships off the board, one shot at a time. It's got to be the Recusent. And there's so many things, since it's almost all dice adding mechanics, even if you have even if you've got something to really bad, like let's just say you've got thermal shields and you're like, I'm gonna cut your dice in half. No, you're only gonna take 2 dice away, and they're gonna be red dice. So again, it's not going to impact me all that much. One example of this, and this is why this one's in first place, because I think it's just kind of critical for the fleet as a whole. Because I mean, again, if you look at ships and you look at Separatist fleets, Patriot Fist is probably one of the most common title in the whole, maybe in the whole game. But if you look at in a faction, I just Patriot Fist is too good to ignore, and it's probably it's the equivalent of the Demolisher title for Gladiators in a way. It's just like, it's one of those, if you're taking a Recusent, you have to have Patriot Fist. It's that good. And if you're building a Separatist fleet, most of the time, I am of the mindset where you kind of have to have Patriot Fist. There's been very, very few Separatist fleets I've built that don't involve a Patriot Fist, because it's that good. And similarly, Demolisher was in so many Imperial fleets in the early days of Star Wars Armada. When Wave 1 had come out, you had a Demolisher in every single fleet. You had to run it. It was there. And then even after Wave 1, it was still in most fleets. So yeah, this is kind of in that category. Now, if we were to get a couple more official waves of Star Wars Armada, then maybe, Patriot Fist might fade into the background a little bit over time, but that isn't happening here. So this is just a sample example of, why. Like, you run TF, which can give you up to 2 extra black dice. Ordnance Experts gives you your rerolls. B2s helps trigger TF if, you have those on everybody in your fleet. Assault Concussions can, make a black crit do extra damage. Swivel Mounts gives you an extra die. Patriot Fists gives you an extra 2 dice, and then your Concentrate Fire gives you an extra die. So you're looking at already 4 red at long range. Add a black for Swivel Mount. Add a black for Concentrate Fire. You're up to 4, 5, 6. Add 2 black for TF. 7, 8, and then 9, 10 for Patriot Fist. So you've got 2 blue, 4 red, and 4 black. That's insane. It's very insane. Of course, you can change up the concentrate fire one. You can add a blue in there. But that's a lot of dice to be able to roll. And having some re-rolls from Ordnance Experts is also just really spectacular. So it's just a massive amount of dice to throw at long range in the first round of shooting. And it can do that over and over again every round. Even when it gets close range, you know, you're dropping off the 2 blue of Patriot Fist, but you're adding 2 more black from the ship's actual front arc. So there's no downside there. So incredible stuff. And the fact that you can even get those accuracies at long range with the Patriot Fist title is also really great. Of course, that can factor into other things. You don't have to run TF 1726. It can work well with Kraken. And, you know, there's a lot of options there, whether you're running Martuk or Kraken or TF. All of them work really well there. And again, this even works for other types of fleets too, like if you're running Grievous or something like that, and you know you only have the one. If people can mess. You don't have duplicate defense tokens here. That's one of those reasons why this ship can get shot. You don't have the defensive retrofit, but again, it's just I won't even call it a glass cannon. It's more of like a, I don't know, like maybe a tempered glass cannon. So that's my top 5 of the Separatists. Let me know what you disagree with and what you do agree with. And again, we don't have to have the exact same top 5. Again, there's obviously some bias that goes into every list. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all. And always wash your socks.